You may not be turning enough on your serve. So today, I'm going to show you two things that can help you get a bigger shoulder turn and ultimately produce more power on your serve with less effort. Let's begin. For many years, I struggled with this. So today, I'm going to show you the fundamental checkpoints that every good player who intends to play advanced level tennis must hit. The first thing, and the main reason why people struggle with getting a big shoulder turn on their serve, is because of the toss and the synchronization with the arms. What you want to do is have your hands close together like a handcuff at the beginning of the swing. And when we turn, instead of separating the arms right away, try rocking back with your arms together and don't separate them until you get past the inner thigh of your front leg. This will force you to keep your shoulders together and turn them as a unit instead of just pulling this arm back. Now, when we turn, instead of tossing straight up and in front of us, we want to feel like we are tossing parallel with the baseline, or perhaps on a little bit of a diagonal, but having this as a reference point is good because now it's going to be a lot easier to feel like we get our back to the net. A lot of people are actually getting their racket back here instead of turning the shoulders. So people have it in reverse. They have the racket back here and the shoulders are still in front, but we actually want to have the shoulders back and the racket in front. We want the racket to stay on the outside of our body. So when we are turning to the back fence, it doesn't mean that the racket needs to come back here. This is what we would call a leak on the serve. It's an extra movement and a pulling motion that a lot of people have, and it's stealing a lot of energy and power. So we want the racket to actually stay on the outside of the body while we feel like we get our back to the net, okay? We are going to take a look at the top 5 players currently in the ATP that hit the 2 major checkpoints that we've gone over in this video and ultimately get their back to the net on the shoulder turn. First, we've got Novak. Now notice how the shoulders have coiled and they're going to keep going back. We're delaying the pulling of the racket. We're keeping it in front of the torso for as long as we can. The tossing arm comes up like a lever parallel with the baseline. And the release of the ball, depending on if you're hitting a first or a second serve, would be around here or here. So basically letting go of the toss at shoulder height. And the shoulders continue to turn back. And notice how the racket is still in front of his body, okay? That's a pretty good shoulder turn. He doesn't have the biggest serve, obviously, and we do see bigger coils, but if it's good enough for him, it's probably good enough for you as well. Alcaraz also hits the major checkpoints on his serve. He has a pinpoint stance, so he gets there a little bit differently. The arm comes straight up like a bar, and his toss generally goes into the court at around 45 degrees, right? So it's not exactly parallel with the baseline. And he does have a pinpoint stance, but notice how his shoulders are pointing to the back fence. His back is basically to the net, and the racket is still on the outside of the body. Daniil Medvedev. So the same thing. Of course, all these pros do have
different styles in their technique, but the common threads are still the same. The racket does not get behind the body. The toss is in and around parallel with the baseline, just like Alcaraz. He has it a little more into the court, okay? Maybe at, say, a 30-degree angle. We'll let go of the ball at the same height, and the shoulders are going to get sideways, and the racket is going to stay in front of the body. Okay, the shoulder turn happens with this and not a pulling back of the racket. He's got the delay, he hits the checkpoints, and it's not until it's time to go that the racket falls behind the body. We've got Sinner on the serve now. Same thing. Textbook setup. Hands come back together like a handcuff. We keep the racket in front of the body. The bar is an arm parallel to the baseline. Let go around shoulder height. The racket isn't disappearing behind the body. He still hasn't pulled it up. And the unit turn is there. And the racket is on the outside of the body. Beautiful serve. Next player. Last on our list is Rublev. Keep in mind, he's still the number 5th player in the world. Hands together like a handcuff. When the separation does occur, the tossing arm is going to come up straight like a bar, parallel with the baseline. We're going to let go around shoulder height. We've got the delay. The racket is still in front of the body, and it's not until the shoulders get back into the power position, okay, back to the net, racket on the outside of the body, that we fire everything and the racket falls behind the body. Is the last part of the kinetic chain. In any event, thanks for tuning in, and use what you've learned to modernize your serve. If you like what you learned here, I recommend taking the next step and going into my online course, because it takes these concepts and builds on them and shows you a complete system for enjoying tennis for the rest of your life. You can get started by clicking the link down in the description, and you can sign up on my website.